I said to him, let's just pray. That's our only option right now. Let's just pray that God will send me back. And he said, okay. And I just went. And I remember being back in that place, and nothing was there, but I was just with that presence. And I didn't say anything. I already knew that my desire and was already known. It's so amazing. You don't even have to say anything. I just stood there in the presence of God, and knowing that if I was sent back, it's because I can do what I said I could do. It would be fulfilled. And if I wasn't, it's because I wouldn't be able to.
Yandea, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So why don't we just start by you sharing your experience?
Sure, no worries. So my journey, my story began last January 15th, 5 days after my birthday. I was pregnant and I started spotting, which ended up, getting into cramps and all that. So I went into the emergency, and after being there for about 3.5 hours, I was finally seen. But by the time I got into the room, I ended up miscarrying the baby. The doctor, gave me the stuff to clean up and all of that. And I went to the washroom. And when I went into the washroom, I started feeling like my hands getting cold, my feet getting cold. Then I couldn't feel my feet. I couldn't feel. And I decided to leave the washroom, and my husband was waiting outside for me. So I ended up collapsing into his arms. And there was a chair nearby, so he placed me on the chair and called for help and stuff. The last thing I actually remember was saying to him, I think I'm gonna pass out. But he says, I never said anything. I just collapsed into his arms. And when that happened, I found myself in a place, it was all dark where I was. Didn't feel afraid of the darkness. Everybody always wants to know, were you afraid? No, nothing about it was scary. There was no feeling of bad energy or entities or anything around. It was just that it was dark, and it felt like I was at the bottom of the ocean. It was so vast, and there was nothing else there but just emptiness. And when I looked up, I can see light coming in, and I could see waves. So that's what gave me the feeling I was in the bottom of an ocean, So I immediately wanted to go towards the light, and I just had to think it. So as soon as I started wanting to go towards the light, I was going towards the light. So I was kind of floating up towards the light, and I could see my husband clearly on the other side, but I just couldn't get to him. And I was trying everything I could to get over to where he was, and I couldn't get to him. I could see the nurses and stuff around him, and I could even see other things happening in the hospital, but I just could not get out of this place. And then I just finally got so tired that I ended up just sinking back, to the bottom. And my eyes closed. My eyes are probably closed in this world, but it's my eyes closed where I was. The next thing I knew, I was being spoken to by one of the nurses, and she was just saying, are you back with us? Are you coming back? You're coming back now? And it was my eyes were just blinking like this, when you're waking up and the bright lights, and that's all it felt like. I was just waking up. And then they put me on a stretcher and all that stuff and checked my blood pressure and everything. And then they let me go home. And so I was on January 15th, and that was after midnight. So by the time I got home, it was around 2 a.m. And I just kind of laid on the couch, and my husband decided to, we were going to move into the bedroom because I had started hemorrhaging really, really bad. Any woman would know this is not normal, right? And so I said, yeah, maybe I should go into the room to lay down. And I just made a little, very small shift. And immediately I felt all the coldness, the darkness, everything coming back. And I said to him, it's happening again. At that point, I just kind of grabbed onto the couch because I felt I was being just pulled into that same darkness. I was just going into it. And I just kind of held onto the couch to stay in this side. But then I went onto the other side. Between that experience and the paramedics coming to my house, there was just several times that I would go into the spirit realm, come back, and kind of see what's up. are the paramedics here? Nope, they're not. And then I would just go back, and every time I would go back, I would see something else, understand something else. That's what we want to talk about today. Like, what are some of the things? So, for example, one of the very first things I experienced when I went over was my life review. The only way I could explain it, because people always want to know, did you see God? And the answer is not the way, not the way that probably people imagine it. I was very aware of where I was. I knew exactly where I was, and the presence that I could feel with me, I knew exactly who this present was. And I would say, this is God. That's what I would say. But there was no like bright lights. There was no person in a robe, angels, nothing like that. It was just like, okay, I'm here and we're going to do the life review. I fully understood that this is when we do the life review. So that let me know you've done this many times before. No one can convince me that we do not live multiple lives. Because when I got there, the first thing I knew was, okay, this is where I see what I've done. And I had my full memory as to what I came to Earth to do. I also had like a feeling of just peace and like safety. Like there were no thoughts that came into my mind of fear of judgment or worry or anything like that. It was just like, okay, I know what's going to happen here. We're going to see how I've done. And then it's going to be, not even like judged in a bad way, but it was like it's going to be looked at, analyzed, weighed is what I called it, because the presence that was with me is the one who put the lives in front of me. When I say the lives, it's actually slides of my life, of this life in front of me. So I saw it was like this coming in front of me, but like little like frames of light, each one like almost like a card dealer, like how you deal cards. It was like that from when I was born. And then there would be another frame, another event, and it just kept going like events up until that present time. I was looking at everything and I was feeling like, yes, yeah, I remember that. Oh, that was good. That was good, And then I knew like when it came to the end, and this is why I call it felt like a weighing, because it literally was, I was expecting for it just to be like measured, like, yes, this is good. Instead of what usually would happen that I remembered from my other lives happening, something different happened. All of my slides of my lives just came together and they just kind of like just disappeared. Like they just came together and I'm like, whoa, that never happened before. That's different. And I remember thinking, okay, maybe that's because all of these great things I did were by the power of the spirit. Okay, I get that. And then I had a thought, what about being a vegetarian though? I did that out of like, the human strength, the human will, my willpower, And as soon as I had that thought, you could say consciousness, right? Said, well, that's why. It's like the fact that you would think that is the reason why. It doesn't mean anything. I understood. There was no arguing about it. Immediately, I understood my heart was off center where that topic was concerned, because I felt that by being a vegetarian, I was actually a vegan for 9 years and a vegetarian for up to that point, another 3. So 12 years total. And it just showed me the fact that I thought that would be worth something. That was the problem. It's like not just doing it because it is, but doing it because this is good, or this would mean something or amount to something. That just tainted the purity of the act in itself. So I understood that clearly. And after that, I actually came back into my body. And my husband was on the phone with 911 at that time. It's actually kind of funny because when you're over there, it's like there's no time. And then you come back here and then there's time. And I'm thinking, how are you still on the phone with these people? My perception was even so clear when I just came back, because I was thinking, they're not even close by. They're not close. I'm holding on. I know how much time I have, and they're not going to make it. I could just feel I'm going back on the other side again, and I don't know how long I could hold on. I remember he was talking to the paramedic, well, to the dispatcher, and I could hear her responding, and he's answering the questions. No, she's not really responsive. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like, what do I need to do for her to just send someone? I just kept coming back and it's like, they're not here yet. Oh, it's over. There did come a time where I finally knew that I can't hold on. I can't come back after this time. That was like in the last, I guess, going and coming back. I actually ended up saying to him, because I had seen some more stuff about love, which is actually probably, I think, the most important part, which I guess I can't skip over, right? But one of the times where I went back, I went into the same place, but I wasn't having the life review anymore. It was like everybody in my life was there, and everybody was of different, I'll say, like, qualities of light. Not quality in the sense that like a higher quality, lower quality. It's just that some were brighter and some were dimmer. But it wasn't because the brighter ones had better. It's just that there was more. So maybe quantity is better than quality, right? And so right in front of me was my husband, my 5 children, and they were bright. And I would go up to them and I could know it's them. They're in light bodies, but I could know it's them because their light has a certain, honestly, energy signature is the perfect way. It's like our perfect language to describe it. And so you could go in front of the different people and just by, it's almost like you could read the light. You understand? It's almost like you could read the light. And I knew, oh, my husband, this is whoever. And every light being that I looked at, I could know who they were. And so the people closest to me were the brightest, and the people furthest away from me, they were dim. And I understood that they were dim because I hadn't shared presence with them. You know, that was what was differentiating the people who were very bright and the people who were dim. And when I stood in front of my husband and children, because they were the brightest ones and they were closest to me, the more I stood in front of them is the more like I was so intrigued by the light. And the more I looked at it is the more I understood what it was, and I started seeing it in everything else. So I could see that that light, it wasn't just them, but that light was the essence of all things. The light was love. It was life, truth. I mean, everything. The light was just everything. And I understood, I guess so many things, but because I stayed there the longest in that place, a long, long time, just understanding. And even like after I thought, why was I there for so long? And I think it's because I had to really understand what light and love, really are, like what life is. And then I understood even more about why the first life review, why when I said, isn't this going to be worth anything? Like being a vegetarian, why it didn't account to anything. And it's because of not understanding life, not understanding love. And it's real in the real essence of what it is, right? And so, like, a lot of us think that, like, we have this hierarchy, we do this hierarchy thing, like human beings and animals and then plants and then this. And it's like, no, that does not even exist. It's like, it's the same life. It's one life. It's one life in the human. It's one life in the animal. It's not different lives, different levels of consciousness. Yes. But it is one life. It's the same life in all of us, but we have, different levels of consciousness. And then there was a time where after I had like gotten, all the information, I guess, that I could about it, all of a sudden I was just being pulled away from everybody. Cause I mean, it was so many people. I never thought I had ever met that many people on earth. And it was so many people and I was being pulled away. And then it got to the place where I was like it felt like 8 years. That's what I would call it. It could absolutely not have been 8 years, but it felt like I was being pulled like 8 years after dying. I remember the whole time I was being pulled back, I could still feel that connection to my husband and my children. And right around the 8-year mark, it like faded. And it just became a memory. Like I was just a memory. I was fully aware that they remembered me, everything, but we couldn't feel each other anymore. I understood that was that whole dimness that I was explaining. It's like at that point, it's like I was so far that it wasn't as bright. It wasn't as tangible, right? Some people may experience like, a loved one passes away and you still kind of sense them around you. You could still, then all of a sudden, like after 3-4 years, that doesn't happen as often. It takes a birthday or it takes something that you used to do to really trigger that. But then at that point, it's still a memory. It's not like their presence anymore. I didn't want that. I was like, oh my gosh, no. I need to make their light brighter. And I knew that. And I knew that the brighter the light, like I knew that a light could become so bright that no distance of time passing. And I was like, I want to go back and I want to do that. I don't want them to ever not be able to feel me. And then in that moment is when I realized this thing that I'm feeling now that I know that it's love. I remember times where I would have like clients come to me for like something very, whatever's happening in their life. And then all of a sudden I would feel that same, whether we want to call it an energy or frequency, love. I would feel it and I would get a message. Sometimes I thought, oh, it was just my intuition, like that's enabling me to know these things or whatever. But then over the years, it just got to like very direct. But now that I was on the other side and I was experiencing being the person who was dying and having these loved ones still alive, I understood the communication is like the love was almost like a like telephone cord. What do we use now? Wi-Fi. I don't know what we use, but it was like that was the wave, that was not separating us. I just thought, wow, I need to strengthen this so that when I do go, I can continue to, be mom and continue to just guide if I can, love them. I just don't want to stop loving them just because I'm not physical anymore. And I don't want them to ever feel like I'm not there. When I came back into my body, I said to my husband, because I knew I couldn't come back anymore. And I said to him, can you take out your phone? I need to record and leave a message for the children. I said, I can't hold on anymore. I'm going. And so he did. He took out his phone and I left a message for each of them. So I said to him, give me one sec. Oof. It's been a year and I still feel it. I said to him, let's just pray. That's our only option right now. Let's just pray that God will send me back. And he said, okay. And I just went. And I remember being back in that place and nothing was there, but I was just with that presence. And I didn't say anything. I already knew that my desire and was already known. It's so amazing. You don't even have to say anything. I just stood there in the presence of God and knowing that if I was sent back, it's because I can do what I said I could do. It would be fulfilled. And if I wasn't, it's because I wouldn't be able to. And not because of being good or bad, but just like you forget things. You do. When you come back into this realm, there's a whole bunch of things you forget. You just do. You try to remember and then it's gone. And so I just stood there and then next thing I knew, I was back in my body. And then I was rushed to the hospital. And then a doctor there was really good. And she found out what the problem was. And she helped me. And then I stopped bleeding and everything. Well, not stopped, but like the hemorrhaging stopped. And then I was able to go back home. But then for like 2 weeks, it was just, I was in and out of my body still, not going back to the place, but just in and out. I didn't really want to be in my body because it just sucked. Like it was just, earth was so dense. It was such a contrast of being on the other side and feeling surrounded by love, truth. There's no question you have that you don't have the answer to. Everything is just plain, Then you come back here and it's like very obvious lies and deceit and, just the fakeness of it. It's just like, oh my gosh, do I really love you guys that much? I really want to stay here. It's like, okay, I'm staying. That was tough. So for like 2 weeks, I was also trying to like articulate what I had seen because you see things, you understand it there, but you don't have the words over here to describe what's on the other side. It's just not in our language. So the more you try to describe certain things, it's like you almost, in a sense, start corrupting it because the only word you could use is so far from what it is. And it could lead people to think something very different from what you're saying. So then for like 2 weeks, it was just more meditation and prayer. Like, how can I explain this in English? I stayed in my body and that stopped after about 2 week period. And then since then, I've just been sharing about love and light and all of that stuff.
Whenever you said you were going back and forth and in your human body, you knew you couldn't hold on much longer and you wanted to stay here. When
Yeah.
you were on the other side, did you have that same urge or did you want to stay there?
No, at no point. I didn't want to stay there at all. And it's not because it wasn't everything I want. It's that because I came here for a reason. I knew from the first time I went in that you came to earth to love. You came to be love. You came to give love. You came to receive love. And the love I came to give, to be, and to receive is the love that I was experiencing over there. And I realized that while I was on earth, I had hardly even came close to manifesting here what was there. So then it was like, I need to go back. Mission wasn't accomplished, you know? And so that's eternity. We're there forever. It's like, no, I need to be here to do this. This is the work that I came to do. And I didn't accomplish it. Like how I can't feel good on the other side, not having done what I came to do. It never was ever, never, ever, never, ever, ever came into my mind. And it could be because the first thing I saw or the first thing I experienced was, I know this place. Maybe that's why, because my initial, very, very first feeling was, oh, I'm here now. And I knew exactly what's supposed to happen. And I remembered why I came to Earth. And that might have been, why from the get of all of the spiritual experiences that night, it was just my focus was getting back to do what I had to do. And then after experiencing like, hey, this love is really important. And if it's not expanded to its max, especially knowing how powerful it is, even when people are crossed over, love is our connection still. It like love never dies, ever, ever, ever. It never fades. It never does. The only thing that happens is maybe us forgetting or not knowing how powerful love is. And so we think that because someone has left the physical body that they're gone, but life never dies. Life is love, and it's the essence of all things. I think some people go to the other side and then it's so beautiful and, they're experiencing all of this wonderful stuff and then they don't want to come back. But I think that it's maybe because they don't realize that the people here on earth, okay, we're here on earth and nobody knows what the other side is like unless we go. We who have had near-death experiences, and I'm sure there's other things people have experienced on earth that give them the same vibe, but we who have had near-death experiences that have been positive, right? We're the only ones who are experiencing that love at that level. We're the only ones who are capable of actually manifesting that level of love because we know it. People on earth, they don't know it because they only know what they've been given, what they see on TV, they know what they've experienced in their broken homes, they know you understand? And people love each other to the best of their ability. Even when you do that, it does not compare to the love that's on the other side, because it's just so pure. It's no other way to explain. It's so life-giving. There's no taking in that love. Sometimes we do great things for people and we're hoping that they'll say thank you. We're hoping that there's some, reciprocal something in some way. It's not, there's so much love over there. There is no need for what do I get back in return. You see what I'm saying? It's so different. It's just so much. It's just a constant giving with no feeling of pulling from you. It's just a constant abundance of love. And so it's so overwhelming that I think most people are like, I've been looking for love my whole life. And over there, I'm overwhelmed by it. Why the heck would I want to come back here to beg people for love again? And I think if we only understand that it's so powerful to experience it, know it, remember it, hold that vibration, come back and share it. Maybe if I wasn't aware that love was my mission, I would be exactly like, I'd be like, beam me up, like, You know what I mean? But because of that awareness, and because I know that we are eternal, and remember when I was there, I remembered so many of my past lives. So I'm like, oh, this one is over. There'll be a next one. We don't die in eternity. Like, this is fun for us. This is
Right.
fun. This is the place to be doing this. You know, when you go over there and what, like, you know, that's eternity. That's forever. This is a blink. This is just a
I
blink.
look at life like it's a game. Like we literally just get to choose what we want to do. And we
Yes,
have so much more power than we realize.
facts.
And
Absolutely,
we
100%.
literally can win whatever game we want in this
Yes,
life.
yes, yes,
It's so,
yes,
so true.
yes.
Do you still remember your past lives?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. So, but yeah, yeah,
Okay.
a lot.
That because you said they were all smushed together when once your life review was done, right? Like they all.
Oh no, that life review was only of this life. But once I was there, I remembered my other lives. I had remembered other lives while I was on Earth. But when I was there, I remembered like this is okay because that area is not a past life. That's where you go after your life.
Mhm.
So I remembered coming. Oh, this is where I come to after every life, where I had gone, right? In
Yep.
this, yeah, in this experience. So then while I was there, it was like, oh, I know what happens now. I'm finished the life. This is where we review what I've done. And that's when I saw my life review of this life. After I saw it, it just came together and it was just gone. It was just gone. So what usually would happen is that it gets, I don't even know, I've never talked about this openly, but what usually happens is that, well, I will just talk about for me what I know. There is almost like a holder. And how I saw like all of those slides of moments in this life, all of that life would have just become what should have happened was all of those should come together and make one screen, like one card. Then that would get taken and it would get placed in the place of all the others. That didn't happen. That's what I was expecting to happen. Instead, it came together and just like nothing.
Because you weren't done.
I wasn't, well, now I know.
Yes.
But at first I was like, that's never happened before,
Hmm.
you know? And so I was sent back, right? But I mean, I'm guessing that when this life really is done, I will probably have another life review. But I know I will see something different also because this is different, you know,
Hmm.
for me. But it's nice to have that knowing that when I leave here, I will have accomplished what I came to do because it's the only it's like the only thing in my head, right? So I know like, okay, obviously whatever I did was good, but I missed that one thing and now I'm
Hmm.
just focused on that one thing without letting go of the other things.
In your past lives,
Hmm.
were any of the people in your current life, do you remember if they were in your past lives?
So many of them. One thing that happened after this was I received a lot of messages. One of the things that I was was shown is that I need to help wake people up, help them to remember who they are. And it was kind of like, okay, well, how do I do that? You know? And, you know, I just kind of left it at that. I know I would be shown and guided. And I always knew ever since I was little that I would one day like somehow do hypnotherapy, but I never knew how. And I knew that I had to also have a hypnotherapy session, but I never trusted anyone to because I'm just like, that's so personal. Like, I just don't want to go to anybody. I ended up having this experience where this friend of mine said to me, like, anyways, it's a whole big thing. So, but anyways, he pretty much was used to guide me to this hypnosis technique, right? And right after he did, I was like, okay, I'm gonna write that down. And then I went on to do my like editing and stuff for my YouTube channel. And then Spirit just says, stop, look at this. And then I went over to my phone because I was on my computer and I turned on my phone and then up popped this woman doing a hypnotherapy session. And I was like, okay. And I just look at it. I looked at it and I said, okay, well, who is this person? And then anyway, she ended up being a woman who was of the same organization that my friend had told me about. So I said, oh, okay, so this is the time for this. So I got in touch with whoever I had to get in touch with, and then I ended up getting certified and all that stuff. Since that time now, people just been coming to me for hypnotherapy sessions and healing. And I was doing healing and stuff from before. But now the people who are coming, and Spirit did say, the people who you're supposed to help wake up, you've worked with them before and they'll find you again. So these people now, they've been coming to all different type of people. They would ask a question like, I want to know who you were in my past life because I know something. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll ask that question after we asked all your other questions. And I kid you not, like every single person, and I mean, I've had all colors, every single person, people who've been referred by other people, they've always been like, some way, somehow in there. I was either helping them along a way, a teacher, there were a few people who, after they died, I met them and brought them into another realm. I'm like, okay, I understand now, a bit more of how I can utilize these tools to help people wake up and to just really integrate with their highest self, because this is really the time for us to not be separated anymore, to like bring everything into one. I think that's really the only way that we can love truly, is when we forgive and accept all of our past and we don't have judgment towards our future. And then we just kind of accept where we are in the present and don't have regret or fear and just are able to be present and then love people as we meet them, without any judgment of the past or any expectations of who they will be to us or for us. And, it starts there. Then we could really be present, right? And give of ourselves in that moment.
On the other side, based off your experience, do you think everyone immediately just feels the love of God, or do you think some people have a harder time?
Oh, definitely. Definitely people have different experiences. In 2017, I was awakened in 2017 one night, and I was just brought out of my body, and I was told, you're going to experience what it's like for when people die. And I was like, okay, right? Because ever since I was like young, I've been having these experiences. So I'm like, okay. And the being who was with me is someone who's usually with me on these journeys, right? So I said, okay. And so we went very, very, very fast. We were just going through, felt like realms, like we were going through different realms. And then all of a sudden, like just when I was getting to enjoy, the need for speed, I have a little bit of a need for speed. I was really getting into it. I just hit something like smack. It was like my head went through, my hands went through, it's like every part of me went through, but my chest just got stuck. And I tried to go through again, and I just couldn't pass through. And I looked down at my chest, and I'm like, what is here that's stopping me from going through? And I looked down, and there was something like, the only way I could describe it, not that it was metal, but it was something solid and very hard. And I was in my light body, and I was like, what is this? And it was just in my heart area. And I looked at it, and then as soon as I like really looked into it, I said, oh my gosh, it was this judgment I had against myself for not being truthful. I had the choice to either say something or not say something. And I wouldn't have been wrong to not say something, because with the agreement that I had with this person, I didn't have to say anything. But because I knew, though, if I were them, though, I would have wanted, because I had that, it became a judgment against my own self, because I wasn't doing for someone else what I would have wanted them to do for me. And so that became a judgment. That's what wasn't letting me pass through, because I had judged myself. And so I was looking at this like, how do I get rid of this thing? And at the time, the person who was with me, they just took my consciousness and placed me into somebody else's consciousness. Until that time, I had no idea that anybody else was there. It was just me and this person at this, what I now felt was like an invisible wall. They placed me in this other person's consciousness, and I could see what this person was seeing. And it was a woman, and she was in this thing like a ball. It was like, I guess, like her auric field. She was like in this like ball, and I could see her life, and I could see what she had done, terrible things. She was just like saying such negative things about herself. And I was saying to her, it's okay, God loves you, you could forgive yourself, I understand, but and I was almost like being her conscience, like trying to tell her, it's okay. And she wasn't hearing it. And I stayed there a very long time trying to convince her. And she just was persistent that no, she needed to suffer. And then finally, I remember when I looked around, I could see that the whole place had people, like the whole place was full of people in her same situation. And I could see that they were experiencing torment and like fire. But I said to myself, oh my gosh, this must be what people call hell. Like this must be what they call hell. Like, but I realized like it's not physical. This is their own pain, their own torment. They're doing this to themselves because when you're in that realm, you're surrounded by truth. The illusion of here is no more. So you're standing in think of that wall like a mirror of truth. And all you have is your own your own condemnation, your own judgments, and all of this, like so many scriptures now make sense, like judge not unless you be judged, and the same measure that you judge someone else by, you will be judged by it. And we think that it's God that's gonna come and judge. No, you are gonna judge yourself because you have been like this here against other people. And when you get there, that still stands because that's how you think. That's your judgment. You think that if a person steals, their hand should get cut off. So when you realize that you've been stealing in a way that you didn't even realize, all that's there is that, your hand should get cut off. And you don't have anything to say against that because you have condemned so many people already. Even the thought of knowing how many people you've condemned when you've been also guilty of the same thing is enough to drive you mad. Mm-hmm. And so it's like I experienced that and I just couldn't talk any sense into her. Then I was taken out of her and placed back into myself. And when that happened, I looked down and I was like, well, first of all, I thought, I didn't do anything near what this girl did. And I knew she could be forgiven. I looked at my little issue and I was like, even if I know that I was wrong, I accept that. But I know the love of God is greater than my condemnation towards myself. That was my only thought. God's love is so much greater than my condemnation towards myself. Immediately, that thing, a light came out of it and it just kind of I couldn't even see the thing anymore. It just came out of it and just kind of transformed. And that light just took over my whole body. Like my whole being was just filled with the light. And as soon as I was filled with the light, like a magnet on the other side of the wall just pulled me through the wall. And I was just in this light. The light was the same as me. And that time I didn't want to come back. That time I did not, honestly, that was 2017. That time I did not want to come back. And then it was like, whoop, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, like I'm home. And then the person who was with me said, you need to go back and tell them about forgiveness. You need to tell them about forgiveness. And I was like, okay. that honestly, at that time was like, oh man, but I understood it. So, I do think that when people leave here, they experience exactly what they need to experience, but there is this factor of forgetting and trying to articulate what you experience in the words of this side. And a lot of things get lost in translation. Like a person will have the hell experience, and because of all of the indoctrination and because of whatever religion they may be in, all they'll have is, I was in hell. I saw Satan. Because they don't know what else do you have to explain something that's almost unexplainable? Mm-hmm. So then a lot of people, there's so much discord between us just because, we're here in this realm. And then when we're over there, no one's saying anything differently because everybody sees it plainly.
From either experience or from both, what is the biggest lesson you learned and you try to portray throughout your human life?
I think at one point I would say, forgiveness. And then at another point, I would say love. But at this point, I would say just presence. I feel like it all dissolves when you're truly present. Like when you're truly present, nothing exists other than just the truth of who you are in this moment, in this time. And that's all that matters. Like it really is, it really, really is. And if we could just live every moment being present, we'll do the right things. We'll love right. We'll forgive. Like you don't have to think about that stuff because you're present and you'll know you have to forgive yourself. You'll know you have to forgive another person. But it's because we're like not being present that these things kind of get away from us at times. So now my focus is I know that if I'm present, I'll accomplish everything.
I always try to remind myself too, if I like hear my brain
Yeah.
talking too loud, I'm like, no, focus on like 3 things.
Yes, bring it in.
Yes, yes.
Bring
And
it
then
in.
I forget. My anxiety goes away.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so true. So anyone that is either experiencing the loss of a loved one or they know that their time on this earth is coming to an end, what is your advice for those people?
I would say if you're experiencing the loss of a loved one or you feel like your time is coming to an end, remember that love is the essence of all things. If you've ever loved someone, which I think the only pain in departure or in someone departing, like you yourself leaving or them leaving, is that you think that they're leaving or that you think that you're leaving. And then there's that idea of separation. And then with that comes, well, I'm going to miss them. What am I going to do without them? They're going to miss me. Are they going to be okay? But if you realize that the love, if you have real love with that person, if you ever had real love with that person, it is still here. We are in time. There's no time over there. So it all still exists. If they ever did love you, they never stop loving you. If they're still loving you, and if you're still loving them, that means the only thing that ever matters, because love is life, it still exists. You see what I'm saying? It's still right here. You just have to remember that and just feel it. Be present in that. Yeah. And just feel you're like, I'm telling the truth, right?
No, I know. Yes. Every so often I just start sobbing. I felt it trying to happen earlier.
And you're like, resist.
Yeah. And then it just, yes. Because I everything you said, I know.
You know it, of course. Yeah.
But you forget it.
Of course, yeah. Remember I told that forgetful thing, it's like, that's why we constantly just need to be like, again, be present. You're present with someone, you remind them of the thing they need to know in that moment. I'll do it for you, you'll do it for me, we do it for each other. Sometimes it's like, you're like, oh, I wasn't even realizing I was giving you confirmation. You know why? Because you're being present. You're being so present. You weren't trying to channel or give a message. You were just being present, and there's the magic, you're just there with them in that moment, and you're just being honest, and there it is. So I would say hold on to the only thing that lasts forever, and it's the thing that you love and probably miss the most about them, which is the love you shared. And the good thing is that if it was real love, which I think it probably is, it's still here. They're still feeling it, and you could still feel it. And knowing that they're feeling and you're feeling it, you're still together. It's just like if somebody had to, like if I live here in Canada, someone had to move to the other side of the world and I never saw them again. But I know they're still alive, and I know I still love them, and I know they love me, and I know I'll see them again, whether it's in, the end of the year or whatever. You don't just stop loving someone because you can't see them. That's it. The other side is just like the other side of the world. They're still there. They're still there. You will see them again. It may be the end of the year, maybe the end of your life, here. But it literally is the same way. And love does not have to, you don't have to stop feeling it just because you can't see the person.
This is true.
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
that. Where can people find you?
I am on YouTube, Yandea DMS Official on YouTube. You can also go to my website, www.iamabama.com, and you could just message me from there. Those are the main places. Instagram also at dream_manifestation_specialist. Yeah, those are the main places.
Awesome. Yandea, thank you so much for being here today. And I know we were like on the struggle bus when we first started, but I'm very grateful for you and hearing your experience and talking to you. I really, really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for watching Lost and Found. I really hope that this episode resonated with you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe below. There will be new episodes every Friday, and grief is hard, and you don't have to do it alone. And I love you, and I hope I see you next time.